Welcome, fellow seekers of challenge and triumph, to the SufferSooner podcast. Join us on a journey where ordinary souls embark on extraordinary endeavors. From the relentless grind of gravel to the punishing gauntlet that is triathlon, we've tasted our fair share of suffering. So fellow endurance warriors, let's lace up our shoes, strap on our goggles, and dive headfirst into the challenge, knowing that with every step, stroke, and pedal forward, we grow stronger together. All right, guys, welcome to episode 19. We are very lucky today. We get to talk to one of the local Kansas City race directors, Katie Renner. She does Shawnee Mission Triathlon in Shawnee Mission, Kansas. She does Kill Creek Triathlon. They do some corporate challenge events down there in is it Shawnee Mission and Olathe, right? You guys do that?
Yeah, Corporate Challenge is kind of all over the metro, and then we're kind of all over Johnson County.
Yep, all over Johnson County. And then she also does this adventure racing that in Kansas that sounds just like the next thing I think we might end up trying, Danny.
I need more reasons to suffer, so this sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, it sounds like, hey, let's get a map, go get lost, do some checkpoints, and then there's prizes, and there's a ticking time point system. You couldn't ask for more. I mean,
feel the anxiety already starting to build in my stomach. I'm sitting here getting nervous.
Yeah. So Katie, how did you get into all of this stuff? Like, were you into triathlon before, and then you were like, hey, I should become a race director?
So where to start? So I had done one triathlon prior to coming to Johnson County Park and Rec. So that's who I work for. That's my, as Danny says, that's the dream job.
Okay.
And my triathlon I had done was the Win for KC Women's Triathlon. I did that in part because I was managing the Athleta store. So that was my position before coming to Johnson County Park and Rec, is that I worked for Gap Inc. And Travis, we were just talking about working with the public. So there's another working with the public story.
Yeah.
I worked for Gap Inc. and opened both of their Athleta stores here in the Kansas City metro. And they used to be a big sponsor of the Win for KC Triathlon. And so that was my first try, which didn't really lead me to this position. I happened into this position by knowing Joe Liker, who runs the Allie Kemp Educational Foundation and the Take Defense program. And she and I met through Athleta, and she was working for Johnson County at the time and said, hey, we have a position open you might be interested in. I've always kind of been a park and rec girl. That's what I grew up doing. I grew up in a really small town. And that's just what everybody did. I was I kept score. I did coach pitch. I was an umpire, which is an absolutely thankless job. Less than thankless because you get yelled at as a kid. But I did all of those things with a lifeguard, and then went to college and just really kind of wanted to always get back into park and rec. And then this a little bit fell in my lap, which was kind of, I think, kind of perfect for me. When I took the job, I don't think I really knew what I was getting myself into, but does anybody ever really?
No.
I came into my role in March, which for anybody that's familiar with the corporate challenge season, that kicks off in April. And so, I just kind of hit the ground running and took over some big events there and came right into triathlon season. And my first year was kind of a whirlwind, and I'm going on, this is my 8th season here with
Wow.
Park and Rec. Yeah. So there must be something that I like about it, right? Because I've stuck it out for 8 years.
Yeah, and haven't done a couple. I haven't done the adventuration, but I've done the Shawnee Mission Tri, and I've helped out with some volunteer work and stuff. Like, they're all really great, great events that you put on. So, and I always hear good things. So, I mean, you're obviously doing something right, because the only thing about Shawnee Mission, and we'll get to it, is so you got to go up that hill on the bike all the time. Like, it's like, yeah, that's part of it. I mean, that's the course. Like, what do you want?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
we try not to hide it. I think I've tried to own that a little bit with Shawnee Mission, and we've tagged a couple different taglines for that event. One is mission accomplished, because that's just kind of cool, but the other is do the damn thing, which DAS.
That's nice.
Yeah, own it, right? Like,
yeah.
yeah, it sucks, and you get to ride it a lot, but you also get to say you did it. So
Yeah, you get to say you did it, and it was great.
Yeah,
So-
I don't think it matters which sport you're in. I mean, we see the same thing in a lot of the gravel events. There's always something people are gonna kind of pick at a little bit, but the reality is once they overcome that challenge a couple of times, there's that sense of accomplishment. It's not like every other course out there, and that's what makes it unique. So it's a good time.
totally.
Yeah. I think, people in general, the public will find things to, hem and haw about, whether it be the water temperature or, the way the court, it's not the way, and my thing is always, I always kind of want to just go on there. Well, if you think you have a better way, then, maybe you should go and do your own race.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's, I kind of want to get into the specifics of kind of like what does it take to put on a triathlon. I think people just don't understand, that you have to have a lot of things in place just to host this event that maybe takes, let's say 4 or 5 hours if you're doing a short course or Olympic distance triathlon. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, gosh, even where to start. The sport of just triathlon in general, like we look at it from an athlete perspective because I try to have that perspective as well, right?
Yeah.
So, there's the swimming and the biking and the running, and those are 3 things, and then your transition. So there's really 4 elements that you have to your race. Travis, you'll probably say different as a coach. But
that sounds about right. I like that. That's fine.
Okay. Like that's making it super simple. And that's something that I've tried to, in recent years, just be really transparent with folks about. At JCPRD, something that has always been paramount to us is the safety of our athletes, no matter what situation they're in. And so that means, how can we make them safe as soon as they get into the park? Do we need to light the park in the morning hours? How can we do that? How can we do it in a financially and a fiscally responsible way for us as well? Because we can't break the bank on just bringing some lights in for an hour and a half.
Right.
But then, and I'm kind of going to skim through some things here, but like my boss, my old boss, Jill, who has retired at this point, but, she would be just super excited to hear me say this, is that, she instilled in me that we can see you if you go down on the bike and we can see you if you go down on the run. But if you go down in that water, like what happens? I don't know that you didn't come out until I tally how many people came out of the water. And so that's been something that, we have tried very, very hard to make sure that everyone is safe in the water. And that comes down to like swim caps and lining you up and making sure that you're going off safely. And Shawnee Mission it's an interesting course because it's a straight line swim. Mm-hmm. So you swim all the way toward the dam. If you do the Olympic distance, you basically go high five the dam and you come back.
Yeah.
And you're coming back into the sunlight, which makes it even more challenging. So yeah,
I've done the Olympic and I was just like, oh good Lord, just spot off the sun. It burns my retina.
Am I here yet? Like my word. So, starting at the swim, like the lifeguards that we have in the water and the amount of lifeguards that we have in the water, if you were to ever look up USAT rules, and these are rules that they recommend based on, what their insurance is recommending to them, and then just what safety professionals are. But their recommendations are 1 lifeguard to every 50 people in the water.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like, can you imagine you're a 16-year-old lifeguard and you're responsible for 50 athletes that are going to be swimming?
No way. Yeah.
My daughter works at Gladstone Community Center, GCC over here, and they're only allowed to like be in charge of like, at most 30 people in the summertime.
Right.
So like, you're asking a lifeguard to be in charge of 50 people in water that's not clear.
Yeah.
So, wow.
We work with we are very lucky at JCPRD. So first, let me say that I think a lot of other individuals and organizations that put on triathlons don't have all the resources that we have, or maybe they do. But we're very lucky for what we do have here. So we have an aquatics department that has a staff full of lifeguards, a marina staff that they're able to come out. And so we put a minimum of 36 lifeguards in the water the entire time. And so that 1 to 50 is never 1 to 50. And there's additional training that we do with them. So the Friday before the race, we actually come out and we have a big, like a seminar with them on the seminar. Probably not the right word for it, but we do a training with them. So they come in, they get on their boats, they stagger themselves how they're supposed to be staggered. And then we have 2 people that are also in boats, like actual motor boats out there, that are helping get those guards in line so that we can help guide you guys. And that's something, again, that I'm not sure that all the athletes know, that, we're taking that extra time with our guards to make sure that they're safe. And then we contract out as well with the Shawnee Fire Department and the Overland Park Dive Team.
Okay.
Wow.
The Overland Park Dive Team has the ability to, like, they have sonar that they can look underwater. So if we are missing somebody, they can help get that person out. It's going to be a recovery mission at that point, but
yeah.
can help. But then Shawnee Fire also comes into the mix because those guys are trained paramedics and they're on the water. So if something happens, we can get you out onto their boat and immediately start rescue services.
Okay.
Whereas, perhaps other races, you might have to wait until you get a medic to you.
Right.
So the water is something that it is always a challenge for us, and it's always a challenge for us, especially at this race, because it's hot AF.
Yep. And I'm assuming that, all these people aren't doing this as, volunteers in the goodness of their heart. I mean, I'm sure there's some of them, but, and like, this is, I think the people don't understand too, is that there's a heavy cost to having this amount of safety. Yeah. And so I just, I don't need you to like divulge financials or anything like that, but I would based on what I've seen from USAT and how they get, they're trying to get us to put on more events and stuff. The most cost comes from the swim. Basically, I would say probably maybe, 60 to 70% of your triathlon cost, whatever. I think your race is about let's say $150 or something like that. Like probably like the majority of that is just to put on the swim part.
Yeah. And it's, like all of those lifeguards are hourly guards. We're paying for our beach manager that's out there. Our aquatics manager is out there. And some people might, they might call that overkill, but at the same time, Overland Park Dive Team has said it to me before. You would rather have us there and not need us than need us there and not have us.
Yeah, I don't think it's overkill at all. Like if you were to do bare minimum of, one guard per 50 athlete, I mean, let's say the worst thing happens and then that guard witnesses that person go down. I mean, they're traumatized. I mean, their whole job is to save a life, and you're asking them to just like watch 50 people and they didn't notice, and they're going to be questioning, everything for the rest of the, why Timmy's dad didn't, make it out of the water. Like, that's just horrible to think.
It's not like you're asking them to watch a static 50 people. You're asking them to watch 50 heads bobbing up and down in the water. To somebody that didn't even know how to swim in February of last year, I can tell you that my guess is there's probably a lot of newer swimmers in the event, especially the shorter distances, people that are just trying to figure out if triathlon's right for them. And the last thing you need is a safety issue with a bunch of new swimmers. And I couldn't imagine. So, I mean, the amount of preparation and concern that you and the rest of the group has is outstanding. And quite honestly, just having seen it firsthand, it is a well-run operation. I mean, you can tell that you've spent the time with the folks that are on the water, and it's really one of the safest events in the area, I'm sure. So,
well, I take great pride in that, and thank you very much for saying that. That's something that we, like I said, we work with those agencies, but we're also working hand in hand with our park police department and Johnson County Med Act. I just got out of a meeting earlier today with those guys, and talking about how we can better communicate with each other and how, we're managing these things. And sometimes things come up and they're on the fly, right?
Yeah.
But we try to do as best as we can. But yeah, so the water is always as soon as we get everybody out of the water and we clear that, like, there's just like an audible sigh of relief from our entire team. We're like, okay, we can do the rest of this now.
It's like now the rest of the day can start.
Yep.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, everybody can breathe. I mean, it's the same thing for us athletes too. It's like once we get out of the water, we're like, oh, okay, now we can actually do stuff, unless you're like one of the, super swimmers out there. It's one of those things where you're just like this, everybody kind of dreads the swim unless they're, a high school or college collegiate swimmer. They're like, oh, I love the swim. Like, this is the best part. And I'm like, okay, cool.
and I think I tried to recognize that and take that into consideration, like when talking with our lifeguards, like some of these folks, maybe Danny, you just said, like some of these folks maybe just learned how to swim.
Mhm.
Like, here's what to look for. Ask them if they're doing okay. And I've been asked that, and I've been asked that at a triathlon because I think I was pregnant doing a triathlon and I was doing the breaststroke, and they're like, "Are you doing okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just trying to keep my head above water at this point. Like, I don't know how to swim in another way because it's just like there's a belly down here."
Travis can attest to this. I made the lifeguards nervous when I was in the pool, so that's how it is. But no, it's I think I mean I hear it in your voice. I mean they just the amount of stress associated with the swim, and again I think it's one of the advantages that your events have over most of the others in the area is that you've got the local you got the county level, the local
Yeah.
police, you've got the backing of of the area's finest in terms of first responders. So a huge advantage in terms of if somebody's looking for an event where it's you can be sure that you're the safest you can be. That's it, right? You've got the some of the best out there. So
For sure. And that's absolutely something I would say the district and my team, as well as me, we pride ourselves a lot on that.
So when I was training last year, somebody, a good friend of mine, said, because they were not a natural swimmer either, and they said, the thing is when I'm on the run, when I get tired, I can just walk, and when I'm on the bike, I can just coast. But when you're tired and you're swimming, there aren't many options. So, you kind of gotta be careful out there. But hey, just real quick, like maybe just go back just a little bit on your background. So you mentioned that you kind of got this position and you kind of didn't know what you were doing, which a lot of people don't. Had you done a lot of triathlons in your past, like before all of this? Like what kind of no. Wow. So you were coming in like as a rookie.
Yeah, coming in as a rookie to the sport, but I think from like a managerial standpoint, so I graduated kind of like going back to my childhood. I was a swimmer. I was also a swim coach.
Okay.
So like I recognize that the swim can be concerning, especially in a lake. But I'm also a pretty good swimmer, so I can tell when someone's kind of struggling. So I went to college and graduated with a kinesiology degree, and that led me in many different directions. But I worked for Abercrombie and Fitch, I worked for Gap Inc., I worked for Dick's Sporting Goods in a lot of managerial roles.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the putting the pieces together and making sure that things were organized and I could follow a timeline and like do those things, that was pretty easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was the understanding, like applying all of that knowledge and then into the sport. And our department our department is small but mighty. We probably have like 10, maybe 9 people that are in our full department. But the people that have been here had been here for a very long time. So like I said, Jill Liker, who hired me initially, she sat in my role before she was promoted to her role. And
Nice.
so she was able to kind of give me the background and the history, and then I could take that and kind of put my spin on it, which was really nice. And so our department has never had like a full complete turnover where like, well, all the knowledge just left.
Right.
We have a lot of knowledge and a lot of history from the individuals that are still working here, which is really nice, but we're also very willing to, hey, let's try to change this up and see if we can do it in a different way and maybe it'll be better.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, so how has the process changed from year one to now for you and for just the team involved in this? I could imagine those first few years were a bit dicey, just kind of, I probably felt like you were winging it, but given your background, I mean, as a strong leader, I'm sure you were never comfortable, but you knew you'd be able to pull it off. But maybe how's the process changed, and what does it look like in terms of, when is day one of preparation for the next race?
I don't really think there is a day one. We talked about that a little bit earlier here because I kind of ran these questions past my boss and I was like, what do you want me to not say? Right? There isn't really it's just continuous. Like on race day, I mean, you guys have been there on race day. Like I'm saying, like tomorrow the race opens for 2025.
Yeah.
Pretty forward thinking. I'm already doing that. But a hard part with races and for any race director is that you plan the entire year and you get one freaking opportunity to do it right.
Yeah.
There are no do-overs. Like if something goes wrong, like you just kind of have to like all right, well, we're going to move in this direction. And you have to be able to kind of shoot from the hip. And I think that that's something that everyone in my department does very well, because we do a lot of these different things, you know, with corporate challenge and with triathlons and adventure races. Like, hiccups are going to come up, and if we can't handle them, and if we break down, like, that creates a terrible experience for you guys, and you're never going to want to come back.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I said, we have all that knowledge and that history of a lot of folks that have been here for a while, and they're able to kind of chime in and say, here's what I would do, here's what I would do. So yeah, I mean, it really, we just continually work all year round on these things.
No, that totally makes sense. I mean, we've had good fortune to talk with a few other folks in the area that do, you know, other types of events, gravel events and whatnot. And it seems like the common pattern for really well done events, like, there is no downtime. You pretty much go right into the next planning session. And I mean, it takes number one, it takes a ton of commitment from the teams involved and all the volunteers and the people helping to put it on. But again, that's part of the picture that the general public just doesn't see. You know, they don't understand how much gets poured into this, and how hard it is to create such a positive experience. And it's just amazing to watch it happen year after year. You guys make it look easy. So,
well, and I'm glad it looks easy. And I've, you know, tried, even probably since like my second year here, any race that I do, like, my eyes are open in a different direction. I did Gobbler Grind, oh gosh, 2 years ago. And I was walking in with my friend Kelly, and I was like, God, it's freaking cold out here. This is awful, because it was freezing. It was like 20 degrees outside. And, you know, Kelly and I were both freezing, but I was like, Kelly, these guys got here like 3 hours ago. Imagine how cold they are. And she was like, only you are thinking that. I'm like, yeah, because, you know, any race that I do, and I try to do a couple different local triathlons or even triathlons, because I can't race our races, but the races that I can race, I try to go out and race, and I always try to look and see what they're doing. Yeah. And I'm like, what are they giving away? What do racers really like? What do they seem upset about? You know, how are they marking their transition area? How are they, like, just what those things look like? And if somebody does it really well, like, I want to talk to them, and I want to see how did you do that? Because we can do that here. Like, for example, for Shawnee Mission this year, we're coming up on, this is our 40th anniversary. You know, obviously we had our COVID year, but we're still going to call this our 40th anniversary. And my boss and her boyfriend last year went and she's a dragon boater. So she went to a dragon boat race in Vancouver, and he ran the Vancouver half. And he came away with like this really cool, like 2 foot by 3 foot poster. And it's like really cool about the race. And then you can like stamp your time on it. And I was like,
oh, that's cool.
Okay, so race our race this year, and you're going to get that at the end.
Oh,
so you can
awesome.
hang that up, and it's just like, but it's nothing that I've seen around here.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. So like, I'm always on the hunt for what can I do, and what can I do better, and what can, you know, if somebody seems to be struggling with a race, like, how can I tell you, like, maybe that would work a little bit differently, but, you know, I don't want to tell you doing it wrong, but like, hey, this worked for me really well in the past, and it might work really well for you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think doing different things, you know, like, I mean, how many times have we gone to a race, you get a medal for finishing and a t-shirt and, you know, all that stuff. The thing with gravel now is like, they're getting away from, like, if you want the shirt, you know, you can get it. If not, then, you know, they give you like, you know, $10 off your race entry and stuff like that. Like, so you don't have to, you know, the race goes into that. The thing that we like about Eric and Open Range, he gives out patches every year of Open Range. And so like, you know, as soon as I get my wife to sew on some patches onto my Carhartt jacket, I'm going to be the coolest kid on the block.
Oh, so, yeah, you are.
So, but yeah, I think that's just good. Like, I think anybody who does anything in this industry, I think I love the fact that you go around and you look at the way other people are doing stuff and go, "Ooh, I like that. Oh, I don't like that." It's the same way that, you know, I look at, you know, other people that coach. I look at my own training, you know, and how other people train. I look at, you know, I think it's just a good, healthy way of doing, you know, of approach to this, you know, triathlon or gravel or anything, is just looking at something and go, this thing's not working. exactly the way I think it could work. Let me see if somebody else has figured it out. It's not a point of contention for anybody. It's just let's get everything going smoothly.
Yeah,
So.
totally. And I think we had talked about it at one point, but just like working cohesively like that, I haven't always seen that. And to be honest with you, like even when I joined my current department, like there was almost like a division, and we were like, how can we work better together? And so I've tried to take that into like just the KC multi-sport community. Like, so we created a committee for the Shawnee Mission Tri because I didn't want to live inside of a bubble. Like I wanted to be able to ask people these questions and say, like, what are you seeing at other races? I'm not an Ironman racer. I'm probably never going to be. It's just not in the cards for me, and that's fine. Like I will do sprints and maybe an Olympic at some point, but I'm not going to make it to that stage and see those things that they're doing. But what can you guys tell me from that I can then adapt into our race? So if you guys have done our race, like you've seen, like we have this big athlete guide that like I mirrored it off of what Ironman does because I wanted it to look legit and high level and just have all those kind of bells and whistles and things that just made it look like a really nice race. And that's been really well received. But
yeah, I think I've looked that one over many a times and referred back to it. And I think, another thing, Lifetime that does Unbound has a huge athlete guide too. And I think just having those resources for athletes, because a lot of times, if you leave it up to the internet, they're going to tell you not to do it, or, like, oh, it's a good race, but blah, blah, blah. I blew my tire up and, like it was a horrible day. And you get, the problem with the internet is always that the negative attitudes are always amplified. And so like, you may have, if this event holds, let's say 500 people, you may have 495 people that are totally satisfied with the race, but the loudest voices are the 5 that didn't have a great day.
Yep.
Well, I think too, things like those athlete guides and one of the traits I think we've seen in some of the best events we've done is just the general communication. I mean, the athlete guide is one piece of that, a very significant piece of that, but the amount of communication that goes out from the race staff, the race director, and especially in events like this one where you may get athletes newer to the sport. A lot of these folks don't know what to expect, and anything you can do to sort of calm those nerves beforehand, just make them sort of feel like you've got them. That's a huge advantage, and I think that's one of the biggest points of frustration I've ever had personally at different events is when you show up and you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do. It doesn't feel like it's well put together, and I've never felt that way coming to your event. Like I've come out there and you can where to park, where to go, how to check in. It's all feels like it's a very well run operation. And I think that's one of the things that that a lot of folks that are maybe new to racing and people that are new to putting on events just don't understand that how important that is.
Right. I completely agree with that. So you guys have done the races, and I apologize to everyone that has done our race and gotten 14 emails from me leading into race day. But if you read one of them, perfect. Delete the rest of them. That's fine. But just make sure you read one. And that's something that's kind of the mantra that I took on a few years ago was just, I'm going to send an email every single day, and it might be the same email and you might be so tired of hearing from me, but as long as you read one of those, you will be in great condition. And, when you just mentioned about, newer athletes and making sure that they have a good experience, like what better way to try to keep people in the sport than to educate them on what they're going to walk into? Because nobody wants to walk into a race day where you don't know where to park, you don't know where your spectators are supposed to go, you don't know where to put your bike. Like that just, you're already nervous, and we just
you don't know that there's an aid station in Lathrop, even though you went right through it.
There you go.
That's right. So maybe just a couple more things on just this event. So you mentioned, I think you said 8 years. Is that right? You've been doing this for 8 years.
That's so. Summer.
So how is the event changed in terms of like, do you see a different is the population of racers, are you seeing younger racers come in? Are you seeing like the same from 8 years ago that just come and do it every year? Like how's it growing? Like just maybe talk about like just the event and how it's developed over the last few years.
So I think we're always going to have our tried and trues, right? One thing that I've really noticed, I'm not sure if you guys know who Bob Schlegel is, but Bob Schlegel has been doing this freaking race for ever and ever. And his whole family does it now. And I love it so much. Like, I love looking at the results and seeing that. But Liz from the Reds,
Yep.
she did it one of my first years, and then she didn't come back. And I was like, man, where is she? And then she did come back, and she came up to me and she was like, what have you done? This is awesome. And I was like, thank you. Like, that's, like, and those are just familiar faces, right? Like, because that's what I recognize. And that's kind of what I'm seeing through like my friends and the coaches and all of those different people. And so that was really, really rewarding to have her say that. But, this year we're sitting at a 51% brand new athletes to this race.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That's
right?
great.
So like, we're kind of seeing a little bit of everything. We 2 years ago, so this will be our third, maybe fourth year, to be the USA Triathlon Kansas State Championship race. And that's something kind of new for USAT, but super cool to be named that race. So almost like a destination race, which we're 25 miles from an airport. We have a lot of we have a lot of hotels and things like that in the community that can really help support us on that. So I think we're really well positioned to be that state championship race. But that all came about because we added the Olympic distance.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, so this race started, back in 1985 as just a short course and a long course. And, it's grown now to where we still have the short course and long course. We added the super sprint distance, which that super sprint distance allows us to have kids 11 and older. So participants 11 and older do the race, which is super cool to me. Kids is
that's great. Yeah.
The Olympic distance, I kind of thought the Olympic distance was going to come on board and phase out the long course, but that did not happen. And those of you guys that do the Olympic, like, man, you got to be just like, it's just a twinge crazy, right, Travis? Like, there's just a little bit there.
So I always find that the short course, the sprint is always the hardest for me because it's basically, I always tell my athletes, you're on the verge of throwing up the entire time. And you're pushing yourself that hard. At least with the kind of the Olympic distance, I would say you get a little bit of a breather, but it's not very much. You just get to back off just a little bit to make it kind of tolerable. But yeah, you got to be, triathletes are known for, being a little off for sure. Yeah, and too fun. Definitely.
Yeah, but it's 6 times around the park. And the benefit is this, we talked a lot about safety earlier, like this course is closed. So you're not gonna encounter vehicles out there, which is amazing because cars and bikes don't mix.
True.
But that means you get to hit that damn hill. And that's not just the damn hill, it's all the rollers that are behind there too, which are really challenging. But you get to hit that 6 times. That's a lot. So, that Olympic distance, I really expected that to happen. That's not what happened at all. Like, that Olympic distance has skyrocketed, which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's kind of created like the new, like, quote unquote, like issues for us, right? Because we're like, there's a lot of cyclists that are out there for a really long time. And how are we managing that? Like, there's just things that have come up that didn't really need to get thought about before, right? There was a long course and a short course, but now we have, all 4 of those triathlons. We have a duathlon. We allow people to participate on teams. They can be Athenas and Clydesdales and para triathletes. And there's a whole lot going on.
Yeah, you basically make this race as far as are participant friendly. Like, all manner of folk can come and do this. If you want to do the shortest of the short, or even, all the way up to the Olympic distance. If you're a Clydesdale like me, or you're super racer like some of the other athletes that are in this in Kansas City, it's just such a great thing for sure. I think it's just great that you have all these. I'm scrolling through the amount of stuff that you can sign up for, and it's like 4 pages long. You can, it's so great. So I think that's one of the other things about, triathlon, because it does have like a little bit of a stigma of kind of being elitist, or it's, like, I know that we talk a lot in USAT about, making it accessible for everybody. And, me and Danny's thing and Serena's too is, we want everybody on bikes, riding bikes and doing this stuff. Like, you don't always have to do it, but yeah, we're always talking about how to get more people to be included in the sport. And I think what you've done here with Shawnee Mission and just having, you can make it a two-person team, a one-person, a three-person. You can make it, all sorts of stuff. So I think that's just amazing, to help include and inclusion and getting more people into the sport. So I think that's really great.
Totally, I completely agree.
So other than have you, my one question that I ever have is, I'm not a big fan of loop courses.
So you love Shawnee Mission, right?
So I love it so much. I will do it. So my thing is my brain doesn't work very well. Like it has attention for 90s and early 2000s music and some 80s pop and some of that stuff. Like that. But counting laps, it doesn't know what it's doing. It can't, like in the pool. I think when I first started swimming, I was like, I don't know how swimmers do it. Like I don't know what lap I'm on. I have no idea how long I've been here. Like have I swam 100 yards, 1,000 yards? I don't know. Where am I? Like, and I would have to make. And I've told Danny this story before, but like I used to have to make this song I called it the lap lane song or the lap song, and it would be like, I'm on lap 1 of 5. I'm on lap 2 of 5. Like I would have to sing that all the way down the lane.
Oh, no.
to make sure that I could get like 250 yards in. Like I just couldn't keep track of it. So, have you guys looked at? I'm sure you guys have looked at it in the process, and I would love for you to just be like, yeah, we've looked at it, and this is exactly what would happen, and it would be horrible. So, to mitigate a loop course.
Yeah. So I had pipe dreams like my second year, and I specifically remember, I'm going to tell my old boss to listen to this because she's going to laugh at me because she laughed at me, and I was like, don't laugh at me. But I was like, let's take it out of the park. And I was like, I think we could just go down, 83rd, and we could just hit like straight DeSoto and Lawrence, and, like we could go far.
Yeah, you could just go
run really far in that park, and we could do, some different types of swims. And for the life of me, we have tried every way imaginable to try to figure this out, and I just don't think it's in the cards for Shawnee Mission. I would love to do something like that. I don't know if we could ever. And I've had some conversations with some local athletes about wanting to start a race out of Clinton and do like a half iron distance. And I was like,
that'd
man,
be cool.
if I can help you, I would absolutely help you. Like whatever I can do.
Is it the shutting down of the road?
Yeah.
Is that the biggest hurdle?
And it's, especially because this was a long time ago, probably 5 years ago when we started having these conversations. And that was pre-adding even the Olympic distance, because that was kind of okay, well, let's add an Olympic and just see what happens. And that has been wonderful, but the growth in that area. So Travis, you live up north, is that right? By
Yeah.
So the growth now on 83rd out of the park and toward DeSoto, like especially with the new Panasonic plant that's going in out there, like
you'd have mutiny out there.
Yeah, I mean,
roads. Yeah,
I think coming in from a racer's aspect, I'd be like, oh, you just close down the road, nobody's going to care. But as a person who lives in a city with other inhabitants, you can't close down like let's say 80 intersections to cover a 12-mile course. Like that's the whole thing, is like you can't have cars and triathlon bikes together. Like people will die. Yeah. Like that'll be the end of it. So
number one rule is no dying.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I think everybody's number one rule for sure. Right. But so I mean, like I said, I'm not a big fan of loop courses, but as far as where your course is, it's fine. like I said, my problems are my problem. Like my problems with the loop course are my problems because I can't count that high. So
we have in the last few years. Did you guys do the race last year?
I did it last year. Yeah.
Okay, so you noticed that we had the app. Did you download the app, InTech app, which was super freaking cool? And then like your spectators could track you while you were out there. You were running across timing mats. It was giving you like your prediction for when you were going to finish. Like that was top notch, absolutely amazing. Like those guys have done a great job writing that app.
Yeah,
so
I think that's just super great. Just having the ability to like kind of get an idea of what's going on, because then you can like watch the leaders, and then the leaders change, and then you're watching your athlete and you're like, oh my gosh, they're doing so well, like, oh my gosh, they're not doing so well, what happened? Like, you know, like, and then I think that was really cool.
And as part of the app, 2 years ago, prior to using the app, so last year 23 we used the app, 2022 we added a split mat on the dam.
Okay,
we're coming up the hill, so you may not know your number of laps, but I do. And that was just from the, hey, Joe Schmo didn't do his 4 laps. He only did 3 laps, or, you know, whatever that conversation we're starting to have. And so we're trying to mitigate that. And that has really come in handy, because then we can also provide you with your splits and tell you when you cross that mat, which is kind of cool information to have. And you can see, like, did I speed up at the end? Did I slow down at the end? We also put that out on the run course. So you did the race last year. We changed the run course.
Yep. I thought it was nice. I liked the change. I was happy with that.
That was a loop.
No, I didn't count when I didn't do the long course. I did the short course because I'm a little baby.
Okay. But like, you know, we looped the run course because of many reasons. But there's construction going on in the park. There's different things happening, and by us looping that run course, we were able to put a split mat out there, so we could also track those kinds of things and make sure people are doing the right amount of laps. We could also give you your splits, so more data for you, more data for me, more data for the spectators, because they can see where you're at on the course by using the app. There was some cool stuff that happened last year. So I'm sorry that, I mean, maybe we can get you like, I don't know, like a marker that you can like draw on your hand.
I have a request. Can we petition to just get a lap counter for Travis, and they can Travis's personal lap counter.
I'll have to bring one of my kids. Well, the thing is like I'd have to bring one of my kids to like tell me how many laps, and they'll get bored. And then the next thing I know, I'm like, I don't know how long I've been out here. No, I mean,
Travis has 12 laps.
Yeah. He's still out there. He should have been done. Yeah.
Hey, Travis, it's noon. We have to open the park.
Yeah, it's noon. We're done. You're done. You're done. I think you've got enough. You're done. Yeah. No, that would be me for sure. No, like I said, I just, I even on Matt Mason, who the long course does 4 laps around the Smithville area. Even then I kind of go like, did I do 1 lap or 2 laps? Like I get kind of lost, just because the blood flow is in my quads and not really like in my brain. And so like, it doesn't matter. Like I'll just, I can do it. I just, like I say, I just think it's funny that I'm just like I have to sing the lap song. So it'll be forever stuck in your head.
I'm going to come up with something special for you guys this year, and I'm going to put it in the pre-race emails, all the 14 of them that I send out. That's going to say, use this special lap counter. If it's like a rubber band that you move up your arm, you just wear 6 rubber bands and you move them.
Yeah.
I'll come up with something fun, and I'll call you out for it. I'll tell everybody that
Travis, you should. I mean, I know if that's the thing I'm known for, it's definitely. I tell all my athletes my little lap song story too. They all laugh. They think it's hilarious. But yeah, for the longest time I couldn't figure out how you guys kept track. And then I asked the swimmer one time, and they're like, oh, and then my daughter got into swimming. She's like, yeah, I just used the big clock on the end of the thing. And, I just kind of know my lap times, and I just kind of figure I've been in here long enough. And I was like, oh, well, that's easy. And then of course, I get a new super cool Garmin watch that now calculates my laps and stuff like that. So now I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, I get it now.
So Perfect. It's not a swim issue for you anymore. We got to figure out the bike issue. Okay. Noted. Yeah.
So now it's just the bike loops. The run loops, I know exactly where I am. I will not run an extra step.
Got it. Noted.
Yeah. I don't mind. I don't mind riding. Like I said, I would ride that course probably until you told me to get off of it. So,
Oh,
but,
I'm gonna tell you woof on that. Hills are
yeah.
my least favorite thing in the entire world.
Yeah, Travis is known for finding the routes with all the hills. So
Oh
Yeah.
my.
So yeah, don't ever come ride with us. If Adrian says, "Hey, I'm going to go ride with Travis," just go, "Oh, I feel bad for you.
Oh, I have to work that day.
yeah,
Oh, I was going to get my hair washed or something.
Shame
I was going to do something."
yeah.
So
Oh, my.
yes, if anybody's listening to this far, for sure, definitely go and do Shawnee Mushin. I swear to God, it's the best. It's one of the best triathlons in the Kansas City area. I have not done Kill Creek. I'm going to do that one. I think this year, hopefully. And I haven't done the adventure race yet, but I think that may be in the cards for next year. That could be fun. So.
Yeah.
So corporate challenge, this is the thing, I hear, I'm not in the corporate world anymore. I used to work for Honeywell a long time ago in aerospace. But what's this corporate challenge stuff that I know I'm pretty sure Heidi Platt, and we know Heidi, and we all know Heidi. We all love and know Heidi, and she's big on the corporate challenge stuff too. So she tells us all about it. So what give us a rundown of what corporate challenge is.
So corporate challenge, so Shawnee Mission is experiencing its 40th year this year. So it started in 1985. Corporate challenge was started in 1980. So it's 45 this year.
Wow. It's about ready for retirement.
No, never.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
People better with age. We're like a fine wine, right? So in 1980, there were a group of individuals within the metro that were boycotting, we boycotted, right, the Russian Olympics. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Travis says yes, so it's definitely a yes. And so there were a
yes,
group of
I remember that.
within the metro that decided to get together and kind of over a weekend host some corporate type Olympic games. And there was just 2 days of just a handful of games, a handful of participants, and it's grown from that in 1980 now to this year in 2024, and we have 160 plus teams that are in corporate challenge, which is like 168 companies that are participating from metro wide, and that kind of spans. There's like 9 different counties that it can span from the metro, and we have companies as small as like 10 to 15 employees, all the way up to your Children's Mercy, which is Heidi,
Yep.
Your Garmin, basically every company. So I don't think Honeywell's in it this year, Travis, but they've been in it in the past. They're very known for weightlifting. They're very good at weightlifting.
Yeah, they are.
And we host several different games. We do a big kickoff party out at Kauffman Stadium. We host that in Lot L. And it's a 1 mile walk around that parking lot. And then it's just a huge tailgate. So every company gets a free space out there. They bring what they want. They can have caterers. A lot of companies will do like big inflatables, and their entire workforce comes out. All of their family members are coming out to celebrate the kickoff. And then we kick right into the games. So we do 30 plus games, which my specific events, we have several different games directors. So half of my job, I work for Corporate Challenge. The other half of my job, I produce these races. So my games are the bike race, which is a 3 mile race around the Kansas Speedway. We opened that to the public this year as well, which was super cool. We had several people come out for that. We do a 5K, which is huge. It's one of the biggest in the city. We have between 2,500 and 3,000 people that come out for the 5K. Wow. We have a 10K and half marathon that run simultaneously on the same day, same course, so just running a little bit shorter for the 10K. We have about 1,000 people that participate in that race. We have the adventure race, so the Shawnee Mission Park Adventure Race has been one of my events through JCPRD since 2021. But this year we added it into Corporate Challenge to replace the duathlon. The duathlon wasn't something that was highly participated in. So we decided, hey, let's try this adventure race that we're already doing. And this year we had like a 60% participation rate from the companies for the adventure race, which was awesome.
That's cool.
I also do the track meet and the swim meet. So those are 6 that I have. But in addition to that, this year we added back in archery. Archery was one of the first in the games. And so that was really cool this year. We do trap shooting, we do golf, basketball, softball, volleyball, gosh, what else? Bowling, darts and pool. cornhole.
I mean, there's something for everybody.
Yeah.
Wow.
There is something for everybody. And then, those individuals that are like, I don't want to do any of those things. We consider volunteering one of our events as well. So every company is required to provide volunteers a certain amount based on the size of their organization. And that's kind of how they earn points. But we take these companies, those 160 plus companies, and we divide them into divisions based on their size. So like a Honeywell would participate with Children's Mercy, or they would compete against Children's Mercy and Garmin and kind of those bigger organizations within the city, whereas those smaller, 50s and 60s and 70s are all kind of participating against each other. So this year we have 8 divisions A through H, and they're, earning points to earn a trophy and bragging rights. And we wrap it all up right after the Shawnee Mission Try, which is not part of it, but we throw that in the middle because we didn't get enough work. And we wrap it all up with a big award celebration where we present the trophy to the winners. And we do that down at the Abbott downtown. And that is the Thursday following Shawnee Mission this year. So I think that's like July 18th.
So is it like one trophy? Is it like the Stanley Cup, and then like they put their name on it, and then like they get to like display it in their corporate headquarters, and
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
It's
okay.
Really cool. And we so Corporate Challenge partners with, they pick a charity every year, a beneficiary, and a portion of every entry fee goes back to them. So this year, as well as the last couple of years, we have partnered with Cornerstones of Care, specifically their Build Tribe program. So their Build Tribe program focuses on providing kiddos within like the foster care system with valuable skills, which could be like culinary skills, woodworking, and metalworking. I'm not saying that right. I know that I'm not. And like horticulture. And then those kids can take that out really and, become part of the workforce and contribute to society in that way. And so this year specifically, we've contracted with them to build us new trophy bases, which is really cool because that's kind of what they do, right? So they're leaving their mark then on Corporate Challenge too. And so then all those nameplates from those trophies will get transferred over onto those bases that the kids have worked really hard to make, which is super cool.
That's awesome. That's great. That's so great. Cool.
Yeah.
That's So I don't know. I used to kind of dog on Corporate Challenge because I felt like it kind of like pulled away from the other racing, but I can see why it's such a big draw here, especially since it's like a multi-week thing. You said it starts in January, it starts in April and ends in July, mid-July. And that's just great. Like you just have this. Yeah, I can understand that for sure.
Yeah, I had no idea there were that many events. I knew there was a decent range, but just everything you rattled off there just totally took me by surprise. So that is awesome. So.
Yeah, there's a lot. And it, when I first came on board there, Travis, to your point, like there was a bit of an overlap. So Corporate Challenge, which would have been my job to host not only the Shawnee Mission Tri, but also host the triathlon for Corporate Challenge, the same course.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a push point for me. I don't know if I'm saying that, but I was like, look, like we're doing this race and we want people to come out and do it to compete and pay for it, but we're also going to do it for Corporate Challenge. Like, how are we making the best use of our time and the best use of our resources? And I think we've really found that sweet spot this year with, like I said, we took the triathlon and kind of transitioned it into a duathlon and a relay race and trying to make that work. And it still wasn't getting a ton of participation. So, we evolved that into the adventure race this year, and it seems like a perfect fit for us. We have to become a perfect fit for one of our races or events within Corporate Challenge. Like we want to see a high participation rate, but we also want to see faces that maybe we aren't seeing at every other event. How are we catering to those folks that may not be your 5K runner or may not be a trap shooter, but they're a really good navigator.
Right.
Yeah. So we try to find things that are going to bring new people into the fold. And that is something that has worked out really well.
That's great. So adventure racing, like since you were bringing that up and that's new this year. So how is that just like navigating to a point, or do you have to like, I think like The Amazing Race, that's on, TV. They got to like do clues, and then they got to like go to the next, spot, and they can get there any way possible? Or do you guys do like they have to, you can only bike in this section or swim, or you use a kayak? So how does that whole adventure race, your guys' adventure race play out?
So adventure racing just as a whole is usually it's a multi-sport. So it's kind of similar to triathlon, right? Like triathlon is like your swim, your bike, your run, and multi-sport kind of encompasses like your dues and your aqua bikes and things like that. So this is multidisciplinary, I guess. So you usually have a paddle section, you usually have a bike section, and you usually have a trek, not riding a trek, a trek section. So our race specifically, we offer two different options. You can either do a 6-hour race or a 2-hour race.
Okay.
In that 6-hour race, you're going to do all three of those disciplines. We determine which you go to first because that helps us kind of manage boats. Because we are renting those boats. Everything on the water is expensive, including boats.
Yes.
So we rent those boats, and we have to make sure that we have them back at an appropriate time. So we tell you like who's going to boat first, and so on and so forth. But you can get to those checkpoints in any order that you want to, as long as they are on that leg of the event. So if you were boating this past weekend, for example, your checkpoints that you would have been assigned would be 1, 2, and 3. We give you a clue sheet with the clue how to get there, and then we pre-plot those points on a topographic map for you.
Okay.
Once you're in the water, you figure it out, and you get to them as fast as you can, and then you have a little passport that when you get there, you'll see this like PVC pipe. It's, I don't know, a foot long with orange tape on it, and it has a little hole punch that hangs in the middle of it, and you punch that number on your passport. So if you found 1, you punch 1 on your passport.
Okay.
So on and so forth. And then we have a whole section that's just for biking. And that biking might take place on the paved trails. It might take place on the road. It might take place, if we're lucky and the trails are open, on the dirt track trails, the single track trails. And then your trekking is kind of all over. You're going to be trekking through, you might be bushwhacking if the dirt trails aren't open. You literally could be going anywhere. Like I'm trying to think of where some of the points were. Literally out in the middle of nowhere. Like I came back covered in ticks today after going to find some of these points. So you're right. Yay. It sounds so fun.
We're laughing because we got covered in ticks this weekend because we had to ride through a bushy section of gravel horse trail. So we feel you. We can relate.
Yeah, right. So we try to, so we have 2 different adventure races. We host the Shawnee Mission Park adventure race, and then we host an adventure race out at Kill Creek, which is between Kill Creek and Timber Ridge Adventure Center. So Timber Ridge Adventure Center is not a place that you can just like venture into. You have to reserve, and it's like a ropes course and things like that. So we put some points in there because it's just really pretty and not a lot of people get to trek around in there, but we also utilize their climbing wall and their archery center. So if you started the 6-hour, like that's tacked on to your 6-hour. And so every person on your team has to climb the wall before you can punch your point. And every person on the team has to at least hit the target with an arrow before you can punch.
That's cool.
Right. So it's just like a little bit of different things that you might encounter. And the race changes every single year. You don't get your map until race morning. So all you know is I better be prepared to be out in the wilderness, maybe have extra socks, have a change of clothes. We send out a whole list, obviously, probably right. I send them out every day for, 14 days to make sure that they bring the stuff that they need, because that's just the way that I roll. But, we send out a list of things that they should bring, their required gear. You're not allowed to use your phone. You do need to have it on because that, something could happen. You might need to call 911, or maybe we need to go to get a hold of you because you came for the 2-hour, but you stayed out for 5 hours. But you just never know what's going to happen out there. And like we were talking earlier that, we had a guy this year that he showed up. His team name was Team Broken Ankle. And I was like, oh, I think I know who this guy is. And he showed up and his shirt had his x-ray on it from last year of his broken ankle. And last year at the race, he asked me for ibuprofen because he thought his ankle was just hurt, and turns out he's my friend's neighbor, and he broke his ankle.
Oh my gosh, that's just wild.
Right?
Like, yeah, I'll just walk it off. It's okay.
Yeah.
He must play hockey too.
Yes.
Right? But it's kind of like, I feel like it's like gravel riding, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you get out there, you got to get back, man. Like, how are you
That's
going to do it?
Yeah.
And I think so. It sounds like this is geared towards like all skill levels too, right? I mean, you don't have to be, Bear Grylls out there living in the wilderness for a month at a time. Like you can do this just with a little bit of training and just a good attitude, right?
Absolutely. And so I described the 6 hour as those 3 disciplines, but the 2 hour is all on foot. So the 2 hour is what we added into Corporate Challenge, because we felt like you don't have to have all the extra equipment, right? Like you can come out and just trek around. And the 2 and the 6, like those hour time frames are hard. Like if you come back after that, you start losing checkpoints. So there's penalties for coming back after that time frame. So it's very different than your typical 5K where everyone might take a different time to get done. Like we tell you when you have to be done, and you have to be back in that time frame, which is kind of nice because you can go to what you want to go to.
Yeah.
We have lots of families that come out and do the 2 hour. Specifically, we have a family that in the building that I work in, we have a nature play preschool as well. And their oldest son, Caleb, is in the nature play preschool. They do the adventure race every year. This year they came out, they have another kiddo, and their team name was Stopping at 3. And I was like, hey, are you guys having more kids? And they're like, no, the third is but they came out
and they come back. Then they come back the next year. Like, we meant 4.
They just take the Stopping at 3 and like cross it out, and there's a 4 underneath it. Oh my god, that'd be hilarious.
But they came out, and Caleb is like 5 years old maybe, and he was so proud of himself. He found 3 checkpoints. They navigate to all of these. He can kind of tell you like the directions of the park. So like he's learning some of these skills that, even people our age don't know, which is so cool to know that, because if the world ends, you might need to know which way.
That's right.
Yeah, you might be able to. You might have to read a map and understand points like along the map of where you need to go. Yeah.
But all kidding aside, like what a fun way to get kids involved, and like you hear all the stories about how young kids and addicted to electronic devices and all this stuff. And what a fun way to get them out with like in a practical scenario and just learning how to just live, and have fun. What a great experience. So,
absolutely. It's so fun.
It's awesome. That's Travis. It sounds like something we may have to look for.
I'm telling you, dude. I'm thinking I'm gonna have to put it on the calendar for next year. It could be fun. It could either bring us all together or tear us all apart, just like Monopoly.
We will learn a lot about it.
Oh my goodness, that is so great.
So, what do you are you have any more ambitions for other races, as far as like, I know you talked about the women's only try, and unfortunately last year was its last year, right? Or was it 2 years ago? 2 years ago was the last year. Yeah. Are you planning on expanding your race director role, or do you think you have enough on your plate right now?
My boss is going to love that you said that. I think that we, as a department, because it's not just me, right? Like I can plan all these things, but then I have to convince my entire team to come out with me. We are probably pretty tapped out at this point. I know we didn't get the opportunity today to talk a lot about kids tries, but that's something that I'm really passionate about. And I think there's ways outside of producing an actual event that we can get more kids involved in the sport. And I'm really working on exploring that. Because there's times in quote unquote our off season here with our department that we can maybe do some other things. So I think we can kind of start to mix some of those things in. But, we talked about like inclusivity and making the sport just accessible to more people. And that's something that I'm really passionate about. So, outside of producing more events, like I've joined several committees. I sit on the USAT race director committee, and that's been something that's been really good. I've been able to, voice some opinions, but also get some really great feedback from them.
Good.
And I'm devastated that this is the last year for Matt Mason, but I also sit on that race committee, and we collectively as a committee have some cool things in the works to hopefully keep them kind of in this realm. Not to say that there will be a race, but we will hopefully keep that kind of memory alive. Something
Yeah,
that really stood out to me with the Matt Mason race, when I talked with Steve, who was our race director before this year, was, those guys, when they would come back from deployment, they would come and race Shawnee Mission, which meant a lot to me to be able to work with them. And so I think we're going to find some cool ways to kind of keep Matt's memory alive through the sport of triathlon.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. I'm sad to see it go, but I think those guys have done a lot of really great work and will hopefully continue to do some really great things.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And you actually took one of the questions I wanted to ask you about was, how do we help the sport grow? I mean, you mentioned getting more kids involved, and
Mm-hmm.
I have a background. I coached baseball for 15 years at a probably too competitive of a level, and that tends to be like the quote traditional sports, and kind of now as I've gotten older and gotten into cycling, triathlon, and all of these types of activities. Like it makes you kind of look back and go, would I have done it different? And I think there's an opportunity for parents now and to get their kids involved in some of these types of activities. You don't, if they're not around it, they don't know it exists. And so I maybe talk a little bit, just a couple more minutes on the kids side, and like, how do we just grow this sport to as many people as possible? And we talk in this thing about suffer sooner, and we make it sound painful, but at the end of the day, it is so much fun, and it is so much accomplishment. And I think everybody in society needs a little bit of that. So maybe just spend a few minutes on the kids side and what some of the things you're doing there.
Yeah. So JCPRD started our kids try in 2015, I believe. 2014, it was the Hy-Vee Kids Try out at Kill Creek Park. And so that was the first location for the Hy-Vee Kids Try. The Hy-Vee Kids Try, I think, has kind of dwindled away at this point. They were in several different locations. They ended being out at Arrowhead Stadium, like building a pool, which is like, I can't even imagine the cost of that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Right?
Well, I mean, they're doing it in, I just saw this on USA Swimming too. They're doing it for nationals in Indiana.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Or for, swimming nationals. They're doing it in, where the Colts play.
Wow.
It's crazy. They're building an Olympic sized pool. I think it's 15 lanes. And then it's basically on the field, and then they're putting like a deck above it, like a wooden like pool deck above.
Do you know how cold that pool is going to be? Like, they're going to have to fill it with a fire hose.
I know, right? It's going to be insane.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy. But those swimmers are crazy. They'll just swim in that cold water. I'm like,
but is it wetsuit legal?
Yeah,
right,
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
So the Hy-Vee Kids Try was the first one out at Kill Creek in 2014. 2015, they had moved out to the stadiums, and so JCPRD kind of wanted to continue. And so that was pretty small that year. I want to say it was like 60 or maybe 70 athletes. When I came on board in 2016, we had about 90. And for the last 2 years, we've maxed out at 300.
Okay.
So there's a huge growth in the sport via kids, and a lot, like, some are athletes' kids and some aren't, and a lot of them are just like, I just want to try it. And so we decided to add a tots triathlon. So like little 4-year-olds can come out and just splash in the lake and then ride a tricycle and run through the finish line and just get that, like, Danny, you said something that kind of stood out to me. It's like that sense of accomplishment, right? Like, yes, we suffer, but like, you also at the end, you're like, damn, I did it. That's right. And I feel really good about myself, because letting kids do that and letting kids like succeed and fail, right? Like, there's benefits to both sides of things, but like letting them do something really cool and feel really good about themselves has just like this amazing impact on them. So, through just the sport and racing, like our race specifically, what we've really tried to do is get local tri clubs, adult tri clubs, to come out, because not only is it beneficial for kids, because I mean, if you guys have seen a race run without volunteers, like having a kids race run without volunteers is absolutely terrible, because they can't read.
Yeah.
Like, you can't put signs out. There's like colors and like, it's just crazy. So, it's really beneficial to the kids, but then it's also like, it pays dividends to the adults seeing kids do things like this. seeing kids come through the like, I mean, I wish I could show you guys this like string of pictures I have from like 3 years ago. It was a little boy that was finishing, and we have like 12 pictures of him, and he went from smiling to like crying and grabbing his head and like running his hands through his hair and screaming, and then he finally crossed and he was like, yeah, I did it. And I was like, that is every emotion that every adult feels right there.
Yeah, right there at the end.
Yeah.
Mostly the crying for me.
Right. So like from a volunteer standpoint, I think that's something that we really tried to do, because then they can flip and see themselves, right? So the adults can see themselves as kids, and the kids can see themselves as adults. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And I get to, give back to the community that I once was a part of as a kid. But then, I mentioned briefly that like I work with Josh and the Wolfpack. Josh and I have created a kids try camp that we run over the summer, and we do 4 different weeks, 2 weeks for each age group basically. And it's just an opportunity for you to come out to the park for 5 days, 3 hours a day, and work with a tri coach. And we've really expanded it past just swim, bike, run, and do a lot about like, what do you want to do? What do you want to get out of this? What's your goal, and how do we get there? And we talk about your goal on the first day. We talk about your goal on the last day. How did you get there? How are you going to get there this summer? We tackle a lot of big things that maybe, I don't know, you wouldn't think that you would tackle, right? Like sometimes kids can go a little haywire, and we have to make sure that we rein that in, and we talk about being a good person. So there's lots of really cool things that are happening with Tri Camp, but personally, I think like the growth of the sport lies in kids and getting more kids involved, and giving them the opportunities to do so. And I know, it would be really challenging for me to probably create another kids try race, but what I would really like to do is promote the 3 that we currently have in the Metro. And so it's ours in August. There's the Jewish Community Center in late June, and then there is the Tri KC Kids Try at the Y in North Kansas City in late July. And they're all like, they all have the TOTS version. We all, as race directors for those races, really try to be as accommodating as we can. What can we do for you to make you have a good race? I'm not going to put parents in transition, so just not. No.
Do not do that.
Yeah, we tell our hockey kids, you have to carry your bag. Your parents can't carry your bag. They can tie your shoes, but like when you're above a certain level, you have to start tying your own shoes. Like they can't take care of you. Like you're playing hockey, so like you got to be responsible for yourself. So I understand. I totally understand that.
But it's I think to help further that, it's talking with parents about it. Like a lot of times I feel like with the sport of triathlon, like it tends to be a lot of word of mouth. That's just seems to be how it's worked really well for me. So I try to go out to these races. Like I said, I tried to get my kid. I was like, hey, do you want to do a race in June? And he's like, are you crazy? I don't want to do that. But if he doesn't do it, I'm still going to go. Like, I'm still going to try to support. I'm still going to be at a water station, and I'm going to go talk to every single parent that I know and tell them, come out to our race, bring more kids. How do we get more kids involved in this?
And they don't have to, and this is the thing. I mean, I learned this coaching baseball with, again, the competitive level is, when parents have to understand this, like, you can't force it on your kids, and let them come back to the sport. If they'll eventually come back around. Just giving them the opportunity to do these things is what they need. They need that opportunity. And the interesting thing is, there's got to be millions of studies about this, but when kids go through the process of playing a sport, whether it's a stick and ball sport, a triathlon type sport, anytime you go through that process of success and failure and how to adapt and the challenges that produces, but that accomplishment, and then how to set another goal, like those are all the life skills that so many kids just don't get through traditional schooling and just hanging out with their friends and all those things. Like kids need this type of an opportunity for them, and I think I love what you're doing. I think promoting the local events like this, and I can tell you, as a parent of 4 kids, like we had no idea this stuff existed. Now our kids are all adult kids now, but had no idea this stuff existed, and it's so good to see that these opportunities are out there in the Kansas City area. Outstanding.
Yeah, I think it's great. Like just getting kids involved and stuff. I'm always I try to get my kids involved, but unfortunately they were like, nope, we don't want to. Like, I don't hide the pain very well. They play hockey, and my daughter is a swimmer. So they kind of understand. They keep wanting me to play hockey with them, and I'm like, no, you guys are gonna break me. Like, I can't skate. Like, I'm like, come ride bikes with me.
How old's your daughter?
She is 19.
Sounds like you guys need to do a relay.
I know. I think I might talk her into maybe Matt Mason or some other one. Like, if I'm not going to do Matt Mason, but I have athletes that are doing such long course stuff this year, so I'm going to have to swim with them anyway. So I'll be in pretty good swim fitness. So, I mean, as far as biking's my favorite of the three. You basically don't need much to get me to go on a bike ride with you. You could just you could text me and be like, "Hey, Travis, I'm in the Northland. You want to go on a bike ride?" I'm like, "I'm already here. Where are we going?" Like, right. And then the swim, I'm like, I could go swimming. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I do love swimming now. I've cultivated a real love for swimming now, but running, I've tried. I've run multiple marathons. I've done a full Ironman, multiple half Ironmans. I am just not a fan of the running part.
Still looking for that runner's high.
I'm still looking for it. I think it's a lie. I really think it is a lie that they tell you to get you to start running. And they're like, you're going to just be great. And I'm like, obviously you guys have never been high before, because there's no runner's high of this ever that happens.
Did you breathe in through your nose at mile 12? You didn't do it right, Travis. You have to go do it again. You didn't do it right.
Go do it again. Yeah, no, I can understand the swimming. I was thinking about this the other day. Is swimming has gotten to the point where it's not so much of a struggle anymore. It's not like I'm fighting the water. Now I'm like, I guess I have enough proprioception that I can actually pull myself through the water. I can feel my lats engage. My stroke is a lot better. Like, a lot of things have clicked. And I always use the golf analogy is like, swimming's like golf. It's not how strong you are. It's basically how technically and skill proficient you are at swimming, that makes you a good swimmer. So or a good golfer, and I guess it's finally the years and years of flogging myself in the pool. finally something has clicked in my head. And so I do enjoy swimming, and I do get like a, sense of accomplishment from the swim. So there's hope for all of us.
Yeah, you're really selling it hard there, Travis. I mean, the flogging in the pool really had people. So
I know. I'm just saying, eventually, I really, and here's my thing. And I'm a coach, and I'm going to tell, if you're going to learn a new skill, get a coach. Don't be the person like me who spends, I don't know how old, I've spent probably 15 years flogging myself before I actually became a decent swimmer. I think I started triathlon when I was 25, and now I'm 43, and now I can actually swim. Since I moved here and I met Ann Sharkey, she really helped me kind of dissect some of my swimming and just really I mean, I could swim the distance before, but now, after talking to somebody who actually knows how to swim, she's like, "Oh, you're doing this and you're doing this," and we changed a couple of things, and boom, I was actually able to swim. So, but yeah, get a coach, especially if you're afraid of doing this, triathlon, get a coach. They'll help you out. Go to these clinics. There's a bunch of clinics. Get your kids involved in triathlon if they're wanting to. It's not a big scary sport. You don't have to have the crazy expensive equipment. You can just go out there and have fun, or do adventure racing and stuff. So, but yeah.
So Katie, go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I was going to say, Katie, you've shared a lot of information with us about the events that you're personally a part of and help to bring to the Kansas City area. Where's some place folks can go to get more information and sign up for that next race?
Yeah, so all of our races probably the best way is to hop over to jcprd.com and then tab over to activities and then races. and you will see all of those listed on there. I'm an open book. So if anybody has questions, like you can hit that reach out to race director button. You can call me, you can email me. I will answer anything that I can. If I can't answer it, I'll find an answer for you. And if I'm going to be disappointed if I can't answer it.
Yeah, and I've been out there and checked it all out. I mean, there's so much information out there, and we talked earlier about how important communication is in these things, and there is a ton of really good info out there, and just a number of high quality events that I know you're personally a part of, and it's just great to see this level of skill and race directing and putting on these events, but then the opportunity again that we talk about that people have. And just even if you're just thinking about it, go do it. Go sign up for the short course. You never know. You never know where that's going to go.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. That's exactly how I started. One of my friends in New Mexico told me he was going to sign up for a triathlon, and I was like, well, I'll sign up for one too. Sure. And I signed up for one, and I was like, this is really fun. And the next thing I know, I spent 20 some years of my life doing this stuff. No, it's great. I love it. I know I sometimes paint a miserable picture of suffering and pain and all that stuff, but I really do enjoy the sport so much. I've seen, when you see people who go and go, there's no way I could run a 5K. I've never ran a mile in my life, and then they end up running a 5K, and the smile on their face, or when they get that on a bike and they, like when you teach your kids how to ride a bike, and they like, you see the smile on their face when they start to learn how to ride a bike. I mean, that is, that's that kind of stuff is just priceless. So yeah, I love doing the sport. I love the sports. I love, triathlon and gravel and all that stuff. And I'm really, really thankful that you were able to talk to us for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you.
Yeah. Is there anything else that we should know about JCPRD? Just that's where we need to go, right?
Yes. Something that I was working on today that I would love to drop on here because we have limited time to get it in.
Yes.
So those of you that are local triathletes, you'll know who Team Cecilia was. So 2 years ago, we created the Team Cecilia Spirit of Multisport Award to honor Cecilia, who unfortunately passed away, and just continue her memory in the triathlon world. And we have been honored to be able to select 3 individuals, 2 our first year and then 1 last year.
So Joshua was the first one.
Yep, Angela Veland, and then Liz from the Reds.
Yes.
They have been our nominees that were selected the last 2 years, and we're opening that up for nominations starting tomorrow. So that will go out on social media. We'll get an email about it. So if you guys know folks that should be nominated for that award, and really it's just, to recognize individuals who have a positive spirit of the sport, showing that through acts of sportsmanship, leadership, kindness, their efforts to grow a more diverse and inclusive multi-sport field. That's really kind of what we're looking for. And it doesn't necessarily have to be local. We just want to recognize folks that are trying really hard to do these things and further the growth. And yeah, so that'll open up tomorrow.
Great. Yeah, we'll push it out for sure.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we've made it. Suffer complete, guys.
that was not like suffering. So
no, it's not. That's what we always say. The suffer complete. It's always good. Thank you for listening to this episode. Please, if you like what we are doing here, leave a like, rate us, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. It really helps us grow and finds us more SufferSooner squad mates. And remember, when the finish line feels impossibly far away, we don't give up, we push harder, we dig deeper, and we find solace in the knowledge that our suffering is temporary and our resilience is forever.